Australia just went all in on the housing ponzi. Since the election was recently called, Australian politicians from both major parties have kept talking about the housing crisis. So naturally, you'd think they want to fix it. However, both major parties have come up with new policies specifically designed to pump the housing bubble harder, meaning more and more Australians will be sacrificed just so that house prices can remain ultra high. Just like someone going to the casino and betting it all on red, Australia has gone all in on unproductive property, and this will inevitably end in disaster. I'm Biko Konstantinos, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Whether you own property or not, you should definitely like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Why, you might ask? Because I'm a Greek bloody Adonis wanting to give you some independent commentary. Why not, you might ask? Because I'm a Greek bloody... you get the gist. But you might as well come and join our community to talk about the big stuff affecting people's lives. Now, why has Australia, during the worst housing disaster in history, just gone all in on the housing ponzi? Here's a quick overview of the new housing policies being pitched by both major parties.
The Coalition is doing tax deductibility of mortgage interest and access to super for deposits. Labor is doing 5% deposits and help to buy, which is where the government owns a bit of the house.
So both of these policies are not addressing housing affordability in any way. They're policies designed to allow more first home buyers get into the market. And while this might sound nice, it only benefits the few who can access these schemes, but it actually makes it worse for everyone else who doesn't own a property. And that's because it allows more people to pay insane prices, which just adds to the overall demand. So no matter who wins the election, these policies will mean that more people, for example, will be able to afford $1 million home. And when you've got more people competing for the same amount of properties, that increases demand, which pushes up prices.
Good evening. Both major parties' proposed housing policies for first home buyers seem fraught with risk. Instead of driving up rates of home ownership, won't they just result in higher home prices?
Yes, they will bloody result in pushing up house prices, which is the actual opposite of what we need. These housing sweetener deals are a symptom of a very large problem. You see, Australia's gone all in on the property market because it's one of the main ways we grow our economy. When house prices rise in value, wealth has suddenly been created for all those property owners, and they can use that wealth to buy more property or spend more into the economy. So politicians love this because it's a simple way for the economy to grow without them having to do anything else apart from pumping up house prices. Now the trouble is, this property ponzi has been pushed for so long now that it's created a major distortion in Australia's economy and also created a huge wealth gap between the property haves and the have-nots. So we suddenly have a major dilemma: keep pumping house prices to the benefit of property owners, or address the root cause and significantly reduce housing demand for the long-term viability of Australia's economy and its society.
Our next question comes from Georgia Haysom. Hi, Georgia.
Hi. As a 25-year-old full-time teacher, I'm doing everything right, working hard, saving where I can, and trying to get ahead. But even with a stable job, I'm finding it near impossible to break into the housing market. How can young Australians like me hope to own a home when wages haven't kept up with the cost of living?
Sorry, Georgia, you can't hope to afford a home because you're the section in the community that's been sacrificed on the altar of high house prices. When you look at this chart, you can see that house prices have grossly outperformed wages for many decades now. And because of that, each and every year it becomes harder and harder to afford a home. But at the same time that's happening, it's becoming easier and easier for property owners to buy additional properties. And that's why our current system has created a completely rigged and unfair housing market.
Well, Richard, this is a very common story. Georgia, you've spoken for your generation. Richard, are the policies going to answer that question?
No, they're not. Thanks, Georgia. And I'm sorry that you're in that situation, and I'm sorry that in the middle of an election campaign, we're not actually talking about how to fix that for you and so many people like you.
Sorry just doesn't cut it anymore. Australia previously enjoyed ultra affordable housing. And the correct thing to do as a society is to pass that opportunity to future generations. But what have we done? We've tried to squeeze every ounce of wealth from homes to the benefit of property owners, meaning that future generations will actually have worse living conditions than previous ones. And that should be sounding alarm bells across the entire country, but very sadly, nobody gives a rat's ass.
10 years ago, Joe Hockey said, if you can't afford a house, go and get a better job.
Now, to reference how bad it's gotten, in the 70s, 80s and 90s, a household only needed one income to be able to afford a home and pay it off relatively quickly. Then in the 2000s, you needed two incomes to be able to do the same thing. But now, two average incomes isn't even enough to be able to afford the average home in most capital cities. This is a complete and utter disaster, yet millions of Australians keep cheering on these artificially inflated house price rises.
If you'd have taken his advice at the time 10 years ago and you had an average full-time wage job, having saved for 10 years, you'd be $1,000 further away from the deposit because house prices are rising faster than incomes.
This is the disastrous consequences of going all in on the housing Ponzi. While property owners are seeing their wealth skyrocket, wage earners just trying to get into the market are being absolutely destroyed. You see, they're trying to save for a home deposit after being taxed to the hilt on their wages and then having to deal with insane cost of living, especially when it comes to rents. So they're being told to just get on the property ladder, but as a country, we've basically kicked that ladder away, making it almost impossible for average income earners just to get into the market. The old mantra of a fair go for all has now become a fair go for some. And that's bloody un-Australian.
Are you saying neither of the major parties' policies will substantially help people like Georgia?
No.
Just like nearly every other policy, these new policies will predominantly help those who already own property. And that's because the additional demand will keep pushing up house prices. And that makes things so much worse for every single person who doesn't own a home.
Imagine you're at an auction and you went to everyone at the auction and you gave everyone $10,000. The only person you've helped is the person selling the house.
Spot on, but sadly this is Australia's economic strategy in a nutshell. We don't want houses to become more affordable because that would really piss off property owners. We just want to make sure we look like we're helping with housing while ensuring that prices remain ultra high. Not dealing with the root cause in housing is like painting over rust. For a little while it'll look okay, but the end will be disastrous.
House prices in Australia have risen so much faster than incomes that a whole generation's been left behind.
Yes, a whole generation has been left behind. But scarily, it's been done intentionally just so this housing Ponzi can continue. So how do we really know that the major parties are all in on this Ponzi? Well, check this out.
But Minister, if house prices don't come down, doesn't that mean that this system is stacked against young people, that it's just not going to work for them?
Sure, and Dave, we may have a difference of view about this. I have a strong view. Our government's policies are not going to reduce house prices. We want house prices to grow sustainably.
Well, guess what? House prices haven't grown sustainably, especially since the pandemic. They've basically surged 50 to 100% in most capital cities just in a few years. So those trying to buy their first home have been set back hundreds of thousands of dollars because policies poured fuel under house prices.
Would you like house prices to go up or go down?
I want to see them steadily increase. I don't want to see a situation where Labor crashes the economy and somebody who's paid $750,000 for a house today is worth $600,000 in 18 months' time under an Albanese-backed government. That would be a disaster.
Well, there you have it. Proof that Australia is all in on this housing Ponzi, with not even a single attempt to improve housing affordability. The major parties have shown that they're 100% committed to supporting property owners, but for everyone else,
you get nothing!
I'm Biko Konstantinos.